Okay, so we're going to go through chapter 7 here. We're talking about the ability within Excel to be able to work with multiple worksheets, workbooks, and templates. All right. So some of the stuff we talk about in here is ability to group worksheets together, the creation of summary worksheets, the ability to be able to work with multiple workbooks, be able to leverage multiple workbooks and take data from multiple ones and be able to consolidate information. Also, some of the capabilities that Excel's been working on around doing collaboration with multiple workbooks. And then I'm going to wrap up with just real quick discussion about templates, kind of what we have in terms of templates, and the ability to create a template within an existing workbook. Right. So let's start off. Let's talk about group worksheets. What do we mean by that? By default, we can take a number of we can take worksheets within a workbook and combine them together in such a fashion so that we can work with we can do the same work. We can chain them together in such a fashion so that we can, as we make modifications to one, we're making modifications to other. All right. So we'll take a look. We'll use it as an example here. This is a scenario is going to be we have a coffee shop located in Paris, one in London, one in Tokyo, and one in Philadelphia. All right. And then within each one of these, we have, we sell certain products or certain types of drinks, and we do it over a period of time. So this is going to be for the time period January through May. All right. And what we can do is, through the capabilities we have within Excel grouping, within Excel workbook grouping, is we can select, we can go to our tabs. So we have 4 tabs within this, one for each of these locations. I can go to each of these tabs. Hang on a sec. So our tab, we can within these, within each one of these, I can group them all together and create a single or create a linked set of worksheets such that the changes I make on one worksheet can be carried through to all of these other worksheets. So the way we do this is we use a control tab. So if I do a control click on a worksheet. Now it depends on a little bit different between Macintosh and Windows. So I'm on a Mac right now, so the key sequence is a little bit different. So on a Macintosh, we use the command, which is the key immediately to the left of the spacebar, and then on a PC we use control. All right, and what we do is we do on the Mac I'm doing a command click. All right, so I'm going to do a command click, and I'm just going to command click each of these tabs. All right, so a couple things happen when I do this. All right, well, number one, it will first thing it'll do is it'll kind of change the color of the tabs. It'll go from kind of gray to a white. All right. The other thing it'll do, it will, it'll trigger up on the top of the worksheet on the title. It will come up with it'll indicate a group. All right. So a group, when a group is showing on this title up here, what this means is that grouping is in effect. All right. And I can group one worksheet. I can group two worksheets. I can group, 4 worksheets. I can do as many as as I'm inclined. And if I want to get rid of it, if I do a right click, I can come here. If I do a right click on it, or control click if I'm on the Mac, I can do it ungroup sheets, and everything will go back, and our tab goes away. All right, so what does grouping do for us? All right, so we'll redo our grouping. So what grouping does is it allows us to make a change. If I make a change on one worksheet, that change is simultaneously made to all of the other worksheets. Right now, the stipulation is, the expectation is that all of these worksheets look the same. Okay, so if I've got my 4 worksheets here. So if I enter, say for example, change under espresso on Paris, I'll make this 440. All right. Now I'm going to ungroup this. Let me ungroup. And we look at our other tabs. As you'll see, all of these are now listed as, that change has been made to all of us, and it works for anything we do. So we can change formatting. So for example, if I make this change, I've got these 4 highlighted. Say for example, if I want to change the fill and go from yellow to maybe a nice green. All right. It will make that change. All right. As you can see, it all looks the same. So what I have the ability to do is I can be consistent. I can make changes across multiple worksheets in a single workbook that are consistent, and we can do either for formatting of the cells, the values of the cells, the formulas that are in the cells. All right. So we can be pretty, we can do some pretty slick stuff. The other thing we can do, and this is actually kind of neat, is from the perspective of a worksheet, I'm going to create the content. I can move this content over to another workbook. All right, so the way I can do this is finding our exact fill. All right, so what I can do is I can do a copy of the data that's in my Philadelphia. All right, so an example we'll do is let me create 3 more worksheets. I'm going to create 1, 2, 3. So I get 3 new worksheets, right? And they are blank, so nothing in them. So what I want to do is I want to take all this data that's here, and I want to populate that. All right. So the way we populate it would be, we group the worksheets together. So we'll do control click, control click, control click. All right. So these 4 worksheets are now tied together. All right. And what I want to do is I want to come up and I want to do pull down here. This is fill. All right. So I have the ability, once I group worksheets together, I can fill across worksheets. So everything I've highlighted here, I'm going to say across worksheets. I'll say all. I can either do the contents format, so I'll do all. All right, let me ungroup. Let's say ungroup this. and we'll look at them. And we'll see we populated all of the data that was on each of these worksheets, or that was on Philadelphia, has now been moved over into all of these other worksheets. Okay, so we can use this grouping capability to, recreate, create standardized settings, things like that, in a pretty simple fashion. That's kind of our first. So that's the first thing we want to look at in terms of this, kind of this database capability. It's a grouping of worksheets. So as we said, we can group, one, two, many, all of the worksheets. Okay. As we said, when we click it, the tab will become white or lighter. And then the file name will also will add that group tag at the top. All right, so we can see if grouping is activated, and so we can deactivate it, by either just right click it, select ungroup, or you can click on the tab of a worksheet that's not grouped, and that'll do it too. So we could have given a couple different ways to do it, either through the context menu or just by manipulating the tabs. All right. So this is an example here, doing a fill across worksheets. So I create a worksheet and I group my worksheets together. I do a fill across worksheets, and the data is all populated across. All right. So that's pretty slick. That's some pretty slick stuff, and it actually lends itself to what we're doing around, for example, consolidations. Our ability to consolidate by position. All right, so we can, and the good news is it's simple to do. Not quite so good news is it assumes that everything is in identical order and location. All right, so if that's the case, things are simple. Unfortunately, life is never always going to be as simple as that. So invariably what will happen is, we'll send out multiple workbooks that are identical, and then when we get them back from people, they will not be identical anymore. People will make modifications, and they will make adjustments, and they will do things to the workbook that will make it difficult for us to be able to do this, to leverage the consolidate by position functionality. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, there's a functionality within Excel we call consolidation. All right. And this is how we can create a summary worksheet from multiple individual worksheets. All right. So the idea is, and we actually can do this, we can consolidate either using by category, or we can do it by formula. All right. So what we have the ability to do is, and this is all built in, I can take a bunch of tables, I can take a bunch of separate worksheets in different workbooks, all right, and roll them together into a single worksheet. So let's look at a quick example of this. All right. So let's see what I have open here. You want to get into Excel because that helps quite a bit. All right, so I'm in Excel right now. So I want to open up I've got a couple starting point worksheets I want to work with here. So let me do a, let's say District 1, District 2, and District 3. All right, so this is a really a simple example. So this is I have the business scenario is going to be, I run a coffee shop, and I have individual stores, and they're selling products, right? And they are accumulating their information over time. All right, so I have District 1, District 2, District 3, 3 districts. If we look at District 1, so District 1, whoop, actually I converted this in our last section. Okay, so let me just create. Actually, what I will do, I think I can still use this. Okay, so this is actually District 1. I actually converted this into a table, which I think converted into a pivot table. All right, so, but data is data. I still should be able to do this. I still should be able to consolidate from this, even though I've created this, I've turned this into a pivot table. So this is District 1. So as you can see, I've got coffee, tea, milk, right? And then this is what we've made. This is what we sold for each one in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Okay. So let's look at another worksheet. Let's look at our second one, which is going to be District 2. So District 2, what I have is I have, same kind of deal, same kind of structure, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, but I don't sell any tea. All right, so that's a little different. Now let's go to District 3, and I sell all three. I still sell all three products, but I don't have any information. I don't have any data for Q2, and this is more importantly, this my quarters are in a reverse order. So instead of doing 1, 2, 3, I have 4, 3, no 2, 1. All right. So these are all different layouts, different structures. So what I want to do is I want to create. So I'm going to create a new worksheet. Okay. I'm going to create a new worksheet, which will be my consolidation worksheet. All right. And what I will do is the way I do that is I create my worksheet, and we look under our, is it under data? Yeah, it's under data. So what happens is, I think if I make this make this a full screen. Okay, when I do full screen, it shows up correctly. I'm on the Mac, so this is the consolidation button. So it's under on the ribbon, on the data ribbon. Okay, and what it allows us to do is to identify data in different workbooks to different cells on different worksheets in different workbooks, and be able to pull it all together into a single worksheet. Okay, so let's see how this will work. All right, so I'm going to click consolidation, and I'm going to do a sum. So what I have the ability to do is I can do all of our statistical functions. So I've got sum and count and averages. And so I'm just going to use sum because we're going to consolidate. All right, so I'm going to do a sum. All right. And what I have is I have references. So what will happen is I go to each worksheet and I get that information. I say, what cells do I want to pull over? All right. So the trick is, let's go to, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go to, we're going to go to 1, District 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cell, I'm going to take the column. All right, so I will take both the not quite. I'll close it. Hang on a sec. We'll reconsolidate it. And I'm going to go to our District 1. And I'm going to take everything but the totals. I'm not going to take the totals. I'll take the quarter, 1, 2, 3, 4, coffee, tea, milk. All right. And what will happen is it will, if you'll note, it will actually go to that worksheet, the sheet within that worksheet, sheet 1, and then the cell range I want to pull. All right. And then what I do is I do a plus on this. All right. So this is now, and if you look at the reference, the way the reference is defined, it defines it as, the file, actually the Excel workbook, the Excel workbook all the way through. Let me close that. All right. And I can come back in. I can consolidate different workbooks together. So this is in this work. This is in this particular workbook here. So let's go to number 2. We'll go to District 2. All right, and I will take no, not quite. That's better. I do a plus on that. Well, now I have data for 2 worksheets. And I'm going to pull the third one, which is District 3. Same kind of deal. All right. A plus. All right. And then what I'm going to want to do is I'll do a link to the source data. So what will happen is if you kind of follow what we're doing here, I've got 3 separate workbooks, a worksheet and 3 separate workbooks. I'm going to consolidate into a single single sheet, a consolidated sheet. Okay, and we can create a link. So what a link does is a link will establish a connection to the source worksheets. So if data is updated, I can come back in when I reopen this worksheet. It'll go back out, find that information, pull it back in, and pull in the updated information. Okay, and this is actually the secret sauce. So the way consolidation works is it uses the labels. All right, in the top row and the left column. All right, so what happens is these names are the same. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, coffee, tea, milk. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So the data, the labels are identical. All right, so we have the ability. So now what I'll do is I'm going to do an OK. And now what it did is when I executed, it went out to those 3 workbooks and pulled that data in and actually added them all together. All right, so there's my totals here. So I did a consolidation. But, and this is kind of slick, if you take a look, we have these over here on the left-hand side. I have these little plus marks here. If I click that, what we've also captured is we captured actually the detail by district, all right, which then rolls up for our total for coffee. And if we look at these other 2, they're organized the same way. All right, so the way we would read this would be, okay, this is all of the data. This is all the data that makes up our coffee. This is all the data that makes up our tea. And this is all the data that makes up our milk. And you'll see, we have a missing tea. So, so we're missing tea. We didn't sell any coffee, or excuse me, we didn't sell any tea in District 2. There's nothing there. We didn't sell anything in the second quarter within District 3. So those numbers are blank. All right, so this is the consolidation. So this is what we call the consolidation function. And once again, you find that on the data ribbon, and in the within that we have consolidation, and it pulls up this wizard, or whatever you would want to call it, basically configuration, where we identify the name, what workbooks we want to pull, and where we want to pull them from. And what it needs to have is it needs to have the labels need to be the same. So long as the labels are the same, it'll pull and consolidate all the data correctly. All right. So that's how we correct. And then as we talked about in the previous chapter about pivot tables, we can also do the exact same thing using a pivot table. All right, so we can use the pivot tables for consolidation. Actually, it has nice functionality that really lends itself to be able to do that. All right, so we've got a couple different ways we can create a summary. We can build these summary worksheets. All right, so this is kind of, and so what this is doing, this is in the example. This kind of walks us through what we just did in our workbook. So as we see the kind of the pop up here, multiple worksheets, multiple workbooks. So I can use this to consolidate data across multiple worksheets. I can use this data to consolidate data across multiple workbooks, because what happens is every cell on every worksheet in every workbook can be addressed directly. All right, so long as you put the correct file name, the file name of the worksheet. You put the name of the worksheet, followed by an exclamation point, and then the cell address, or the range, or the name. So we can create a name for a range of cells and then reference that. So we got a couple different ways we can do this. All right, but the modern way, in looking at the pivot tables, really do provide a very powerful way to be able to do consolidations as well. So as we see, as we did here, we've selected our labels, top, left, and columns. And then, our categories, our consolidation. And with the links checked, once again, a little bit of a different layout between Windows and Excel. But with the link, when we enable the link, what it will do is it will go to it will establish a connection or make a reference to a connection to all of the source systems. Now, the problem we run into with links in Excel is that they are very fragile. All right, so if you make a link to it, it will hardwire the address, the location, the file name. If you change any of that, the link is broken. All right, so that's the proviso. That's what we want to make sure. You always want to remember when we're working with that. All right. We have some other capabilities within Excel to be able to work with, be able to do displays on screens. Now my screen here, I'm on a MacBook Pro 13-inch. I don't have a lot of real estate, but I also have a 32-inch monitor, which actually lends itself to functionality like this, where I can tile multiple worksheets or worksheets onto the same page and be able to see these things at the same time. We can tile them, or we can organize them horizontal, vertical, or cascade. Where that gets controlled, our control in this, within this, is going to be, we'll see that under view. So if we do a view, we click the view, what we will see is, the ability, see if I can find my, it's on freeze pane. So this is actually where we freeze panes, and we can switch windows. If I have multiple, so I have multiple windows up, so I can go to different ones. I can do arrangements. I can create new windows. I can zoom to a selected worksheet, within here. Looking for one more. I'm actually looking for one other feature, but I'm not sure I have it in here. Oh, I know where it's at. Never mind. So if we go up here, we look on the view on the top menu. This is a Macintosh thing here too. We have the ability on a on a display on my Windows. There we go. Yeah, so it's under Window on the top on the Mac. All right, and there's a counterpart to it on under Windows. We have we can create different windows, tile windows on the left of the screen, to the right of the screen. I can zoom all, minimize all, bring all to front, so I can have multiple worksheets up and be doing things with it. You said it lends itself, if you have a bigger workspace, to to be able to present like a bigger screen. Works much better. As we're working with smaller screens, it's not quite as the utility isn't quite there. All right, but that is a capability that's in Excel. All right. We can link workbooks. I said the thing about linking workbooks, the link connection. When you open up, if you link the data and you make changes to worksheets, all that data will be automatically copied over. Disadvantages, you can break them. All right. Collaboration. So, one of the features, it was kind of an interesting thing. So, Google, as they were developing their, I guess their counterpart, the Microsoft Office, their solution, their approach is really to use a web-based solution because they're, that's their environment. So one of the things they actually had, which really was a bit of an advantage over Excel at the time, was this ability to have two people or multiple people, a team of people, working collaboratively on the same worksheet. All right, so this was something that was in that Google had released with its version, its spreadsheet. However, one of the challenges, I think, if you're looking at as we're working with Excel, Excel was designed from the ground up to be a desktop product that sits, on a workstation. So this collaboration was not as easy to pull off. All right. So the idea is when we talk about collaboration, two co-authoring a workbook, so two or more users can do the work simultaneously, and everybody can see what's going on. All right. So there was functionality. The original functionality Microsoft added into Excel was something they call shared workbooks, but it was not that good. All right. So what's happened is they've actually have added additional functionality. They've called it co-authoring. All right. And what it's really built around is really, Microsoft taking Excel to the web. So Office 365, which is an internet-based Microsoft Office, is where they now have the ability to leverage internet access and collaboration access, so people can work together on a common on a single device or on a single workbook. All right. So that is so that's actually something it's been evolving and coming along. Just by default, it was not. It was, as I said, Excel works on this idea of a single machine, but they're moving, and his work has moved more into a collaborative form. It kind of is followed along with it. All right. So this is just an example of the workbook actually has to be saved. So in order to do this, you actually save the workbook out to OneDrive. All right. So what OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud-based storage. All right. So it's this is as we move from desktop to cloud, our ability to do things like collaboration and be able to work shared Excel documents kind of comes with. All right. Just some examples of what a little bit of the differences we have with with shared workbooks. All right. So to wrap up here, what I want to talk about is templates. So what's a template? A template's a workbook. All right. It's kind of a special workbook, special type of workbook. It's a workbook that has pre-built functionality in it. All right. So the idea is that we take a template, and then make it our own and make adjustments to it. So it gives us really a jump start to work with. All right, so it'll have things like it'll have formulas already built into it. It'll have formatting already put into it. It'll have different kinds of data names. All that stuff it can be baked into a template, and then be able to used as a starting point. So where you would see templates at in Excel, if we go to Excel, I'm going to create a new. Let's create a new workbook. If we take a look, I do new. I can do a new from template. I have a new, which will give me blank, or I can say new from template. If I do a new from template, if I click that, what it will pull up is a list of different types of pre-built workbooks, all right, which are the templates. So these are the templates that ships with Excel for Mac version I have right now. There are a bajillion of them out on Microsoft sites. So people who use this stuff really have made a lot of really good references. So if you have to create, somebody was to come with you and say, I need an Excel workbook that can do this, that, or the other, you might want to go out and explore the template list. And to give you kind of an example here, a family budget. So I double click that. This is a family budget. Now what you see is I have some space to put my own name and my own dates in here. All right. I have some pre-built charts that are already in it. All right. So it's the formatting. We've taken all of the cells out. All right. We have kind of as we said, we've seen some conditional formatting here. We see filters are already applied, or filters are in these. All right. And we have details. So the idea is we can come in here if you needed to created a monthly budget, monthly family budget. You could just simply use this as a starting point. Maybe a couple. Obviously, put the names and the dates, and then adjust it as you would see fit. All right. So that's really the whole idea behind what a template is, and the idea is that organizations will go out and they will kind of create a lot of effort can go into creating a workbook. A lot of with formulas and a lot of specific stuff. The idea of being able to take that and turn that into a template can really accelerate. You don't want to necessarily always reinvent the wheel. All right. So what you want to do is you want to be able to leverage the efforts that other people have put into it. As we like to say, steal shamelessly. Give credit, but you can. If people have done a really good job of something, you should really look to leverage it. Okay, so that's what a template is. Now you can create a template. The steps to create a template is pretty simple. All right, this is a list of the existing template, different, and there's more within. I think within Windows, a little bit of a different mode, because what it'll do is it'll take a existing template, and you hit the create button, and it'll spin up a workbook for that. You can take an existing workbook, turn it into a template. What you do is you take a workbook, you take out specific data, you leave the formulas, leave the formatting, and what you want to do is you want to save it as a template format. So the templates have a specific format. It's called an XLTX extension. All right, so just call it whatever you want to call the file, .xltx, right? And that'll be our template extension. All right. All right. So and then you can save that file, and you can save it by simply saving it as an XLTX. You're creating a template. Okay. So quick summary of what we've covered in this chapter. A couple things, we can group worksheets together and make a change across multiple worksheets using grouping, which is built into Excel. We can take multiple worksheets. We can take multiple worksheets, multiple workbooks, and consolidate the data across multiple into a single worksheet. Consolidate either by position. All the worksheets have the same location. We can consolidate by category, by formula, or we can leverage pivot tables. Pivot tables reports, have a lot of really good capability we can leverage to be able to do these types of consolidations. We can, as we're working with more than one workbook or multiple workbooks, a lot of capabilities of presenting it. So tile, horizontal, vertical, cascaded. The thing you want to be aware of is it's a function of how much real estate you have on your screen. So the bigger the screen, the better this works. We can link data between workbooks. So if you open up a workbook, it can automatically go to another workbook and pull that data. Stipulation there is links can be fragile, and if you change something, like if you change the location or the name or something like that, you can break the link. All right. And then finally, we talked about some of this collaboration capability, using really kind of the more of a modern technique with Excel, where we're leveraging the cloud, being able to multiple users sharing, sharing a single workbook on the cloud, and being able to make and save changes in real time. All right. And then finally, to wrap up, we talked about templates. There's a boatload of templates out there, a lot of capabilities. If somebody gives you something they want to take a look at, it might behoove you to take a look at what we have in terms of the existing templates. Or if you have a workbook that you've done a lot of work on, a lot of customizations, a lot of work. You can see how much work it could be to create formulas and things of that nature. Something you might want to consider is turning that into a template. So you kind of take the data out, you leave the formatting, you leave the formulas, you leave that in, and you create a template, and then somebody else can come in and use it, and it will jumpstart. Theoretically, what this will enable them to do is jumpstart their activities. All right, and that is pretty much everything we need to know about Chapter 7. Thank you.